here we are. We're live again. Bit late. Only had a minute intro. Let me just change something because I've got a screen to my left here, and it's slightly delayed, and it's what shows. It shows me what's being streamed, so we know it's being streamed, but I can't watch it. I can't do the two. So let me just change the screen there. That's better. So today, hello from me. I'm Nigel Main.
I'm Liz Main.
We've been doing a series, as you know, over the past. This is week 7 now. We've had a couple of breaks for different reasons, but we want to continue with the series. And as you know, with the standard is for business and for life. And I've been working for myself as self-employed since 1987, so a while. And over that time, experienced lots of things, as you've heard with the previous shows. My daughter died in 93 and a quadruple bypass in 96. So all these kind of life events happened, as well as a divorce in 2000, 2001. And all of these things happen to people all the time. But you've got to eat. You can't operate and function in isolation or as an island or oblivious to anything else that's going on. You have to earn. You have to generate an income to feed your family. And with all of these different things that were going on, it was almost like, well, you haven't got a choice. You know, you're not allowed to be ill. You're not allowed to have family problems or grief or anything like that. And you look at life and think, if I could do anything differently, what would I do? And lots of people, I say lots of people, but people tend to look at life in that way. They look back when they're about to die. You know, this is a flash of their life before them. But what would I do? This is really important. This is absolutely critical because the standard is for business and for life. So what would I do? Given my time again, what would I do? Sorry, what would I do differently? None of it. Absolutely none of it. I'd do it all again. Well, maybe one or two things. but the point is everything, I've read this morning, everything that we do brings us to this point right now. Like today, you watching this, me doing this, Liz and I doing this. Everything in our lives has brought us to this point where we're sitting down without a script and we're just going to talk about business. And you think, well, okay, so you're going to talk about business, how to do it, how to start it, how to function in it. What part of business are you talking about? Well, bearing in mind, we're kind of SME entrepreneurs, and therefore what do? Well, we sell kit and sell software and hardware, and that's what you used to do. Now it's related to business development and marketing and how to grow businesses. So what? Is that what we're going to talk about? Well, no. We're going to talk about why do it? Why do any of it? And when there's two parts to life. There's in the world and of the world. In the world is as if you're a believer, you understand that that's people that don't believe in God and yada yada and so on and so on. And of the world means you do believe in it, but you've got to exist in the world. So how do you exist and not do what it says in the New Testament with some people, which was to kick back because they're waiting for Jesus to come? Well, that was 2,000 years ago. They're dead and gone. They're still waiting for him to return. So what do we do as business people compelled to work in business? And scripturally it says, lay your plans before the Lord and he'll make your path straight. There are other parts which says, who do you think you are? I think you're going to go to some city and go and make a load of money. You've got to put this before God, and it's God's will that one thing happens or another. And people think, well, okay, I'll just wait for God to send me a text message to tell me what I should be doing or what should happen next. And I've been on a quest almost, a journey over the past 15 years. And the reason behind that question, that journey, was I'd had the grief, I'd had the bypass, I'd had the family, the divorce thing. So they're the three main things you get. No, I wouldn't wish them on anybody. But these are things that happen to everybody in business at some stage or another. But the problem with businesses is that if you don't stop doing it, the business generation, people like to kid themselves that we leave it all to social media and we just get loads of business from social media. And bearing in mind, I've got to be specific here. I'm talking about the business to business market, technology, software, hardware and services. So all to do with B2B. I'm not talking about selling trainers or clothes or anything like that, although you'll see the logic and the links. So what do? If you stop attempting to generate new business, you'll lose your business. That's how it works. 90% of businesses that start fail. 10%, the top 10 reasons for business failing are marketing related. There are statistics that are sustainable and have never changed. Average turnover per person per annum is about 100 grand. People find it very difficult to traverse that, to make that greater. And then you've got people or organisations like Google that do 1.2 million per person per annum. You can see why they would be, keep vacillating between a trillion turnover company like Apple or not, and so on. So for you and me, and for small businesses, what do we do? How do we manage to make our lives sustainable, but keep following and keep not being tempted to do something like backhanders or questionable business practices to keep that business afloat, because it might not just be you that's doing it, that the business is supporting. It could be 1, 10, 20, 100 people. And so we'd spent a long time looking at what happens in business and how to adapt and change things to make it easier. And it started, like I said, about 15 years ago. And we were doing the networking thing, and like everybody else was, and so on. And it didn't work for us because of what we were selling and the size of businesses that we were selling to. And then I chose to write a book. I then set up a networking group, my own networking group. And then happened across this combination of the two, which was to create a business that could bring people together. Small groups who didn't compete with each other but sold to a similar audience. And we pursued this thing called collaborative or syndicate marketing. So everybody shares the cost, makes it 80% cheaper doing it for everybody, as in everybody pays a fifth of the cost of the marketing, and you communicate and sell to each other's customers. Because they're already customers, you've already made your money out of them, and you're just sharing some information with us, and we do the marketing to all the other people, and therefore you would increase your exposure by about 400% overnight. Great, sounds a great idea. The trouble is, people are inherently, are they selfish, are they greedy, are they wary, are they protective? It doesn't really matter. But people don't really want to do things like that where it involves caring and sharing and daring, if you want to put it that way. And so we pursued it, and lots of different iterations and so on. And over time, we became very aware of some significant problems to do with the way that business is structured. Even going back, looking over the past 70 years and what's happened in business and sales and so on over the past 70 years, and realised that people just, when they set their businesses up, they set up these rows on their P&L called sales and marketing. And because they did that, they went off and did what they could selling-wise, and went cold calling and did the most basic and just tried to generate as much business as they could. And then when they made some money, they set up marketing, and marketing tried to do what they could, and it caused some considerable problems, which means even today people are still cold calling. it's a 400 to 1 shot to generate new business. It doesn't work. Marketing in B2B is negligible because the information that's provided to businesses is not enough. It's not sufficient. And so, to cut a long story short, we advocate that people do live. They do this type of thing, but for business, and it replaces cold calling, and you're able to use less people and reach far more people than ever before. You invite your prospects and customers to watch you communicate what it is you're doing, and some of the information that you give will be relevant to one group and not to another. They can self-segment, but you can reach more people through this medium than any other method that exists, period. So where does that leave us as believers? What's that got to do with? What's one thing got to do with the other? Well, going back to the earlier part of looking at this kind of collaborative marketing, we were at an event.
Soul Survivor.
There's a place called Soul Survivor, which is close to us. And we were at this event. And I had this word that said, you've got to put down what you're doing and go and work for someone. Now, I hadn't worked for anybody for decades.
But this was somebody was teaching about surrender. Mm-hmm. And Nigel had gone out to count the money, I think, and you'd come back in. And it was really interesting because the person that was doing the talk she felt that God had given her this word to say that, you've got to surrender this ministry. And it was a healing ministry. And she was like, I can't put that down because, that's what I do. This is my purpose for being here, Lord. That's what I do. I would have this healing ministry. And he said, no, I want you to give it up. You've got to put down this ministry at this church. And she was quite upset that God had told her to put this down, and then realised that actually by surrendering that ministry, she was actually then directed to go to other places and talk about healing. And so her ministry went from being just local in this particular church that she was at to being a huge worldwide ministry, worldwide recognised ministry, because she had surrendered. And so this is what this talk was about, that Nigel had missed the beginning of.
Yeah.
And then came in towards the end of it.
So I was listening to it, and as I'm listening to it, it was like, you've got to put this down and go and get a job. And my immediate response was, yes, God, but you don't realise I've actually done all the work. I've got the business plan done. I've done all the T's, all the figures, the written document. I've done three-year modelling projections. I could tweak one figure and it will change everything else. It's ready to rock and roll. I'm ready to get investment, and you want me to put it down? Yeah. And we talked about it, and Liz said, well, if God's telling you to put it down, I guess you better put it down then. And it was worse than that. Like I said, put it down and get a job. I mean, me go and work for someone, you've got to be, it was laughable because I hadn't worked for anyone for such a long time. So I put it down, and I think I mentioned this part of it in a previous live stream. But I put it down and put my CV out there. I got a job within weeks at the first instance. And I had identified, I did what I did, and they won awards and so on. And then I realised that there was some underhand work going on that I wasn't going to be party of, and left. As well as telling the main investor, but I left. And we thought about it, thought, well, that's a bit of a problem. Because we thought that God had placed me there. No, he told me to go and get a job. He didn't say, I've got a job for you at this particular company. Drive over there, it's yours. He said, go and get a job. So, okay, so then that was the first one. So the second one, well, okay, well, let's be a bit more prescriptive about this. I want a job that does this and that, and I want autonomy, I want a big budget, I want to work on I want it to be on the London Tube line so I can get there easily. I want all the latest whiz bangs and software and everything else, and I want my son to work with me. And I wrote it up. So if you look back to what it says in the Bible about prayer and petition, and following through on that, which I did, I wrote it up and prayed about it. And in fact, I gave it to a group of people that came around on a Wednesday and said, here's my new job. And they went, oh, well done. And then they looked at it and said, but this is just a wish list. I said, yep, that's my new job. And so we prayed about it. And as what normally happens with people, and we're no different, so this is on a Wednesday. The following day, of course, I've forgotten about this per se, because you've got to go through the motions. You keep going through the motions. You don't sit there like it says not to do. Like, okay, it's the end of the world. Let's we just sit and do nothing. Wait for Jesus to return. You've got to get out and go and do something. Following day, get a phone call, and this guy says, I've seen your CV and so on, because obviously it was out there from before. He said, I really like what you do. Can we have a chat? So I met this guy the following Tuesday. Thursday, I had an interview. First interview. Friday, second interview. Friday night, got the job. A few weeks later, I started. I went in. He said, well, there's nothing you can do. We've got no kit here. Got nothing for you. We're going to go to Germany in a week's time. That was the other thing. I wanted to travel. I thought we might as well put travel in there. And so he said, what we're going to be doing next week is going to Germany. So I need you to prepare a presentation for Germany as to what you're going to do and how we should take this forward and blah, blah, blah. And we'll take it from there. I said, great. So we went to Germany the following week. They said, what do you need? I said, I need all this kit. And I said, okay, well, there's your budget. Here's all your kit. And all the latest Apple gear was waiting for me when I got back. He said, are you going to be okay to do this? I said, well, I'm going to need some support, need some help. Because what do you need? I said, I need a marketing support person. Got anyone in mind? Yeah, I do actually, my son. Really? Well, I'll interview him, because obviously you'll take him on. But I'll interview him. Oh, yeah, meet him, have a chat. And Aidan started 3 weeks later. So that's every single tick on a list that I wrote. So to say that, does God work, not work? It's a no-brainer. Of course he does. Of course it does. But it's being lined up. It's being obedient. What are you going to do? What was the point? And whilst I was there, I did what I said I was going to do. You know, I launched a new program, and within 10 weeks they got their first £3.5 million deal. One of the other things I did was someone knew someone that was in prison in Cuba. Was it Cuba? It was Cuba. Anyway, he was in prison. Him and another guy were in prison in Cuba. And I got to know a bit more about it. I ordered a load of books on Amazon and said, there you go, get them sent over to him. It was a Bible and different books and so on. I said, I read these, they're good. Part of me felt that was the point. That was the point of this, was to share what I believed and do what I had to do. And that was share the gospel. Same thing happened the first time with the first company. I spoke, everybody knew what I was. They knew I went to church. They knew I believed, I prayed. And one guy, I gave him a Bible because he was struggling with something. I said, you've got to read it. So what is our job? Our job is to serve. Absolutely to serve. What does serving look like? It doesn't mean going to church I'm just going to need to turn something down. It doesn't mean necessarily going to a church every week. It doesn't mean praying every day. It doesn't mean recognising God every day in everything that you do. And the reason for saying all of this is that where we are now with the business and with what we've revealed, what we've explained. I don't know if I can do it easily because we were doing something busy earlier. But I'll just show you something, because I do different live streams and different presentations. But we've created something that is very, very important to businesses, about how businesses work and how they structure. And there's a paragraph in, I don't know where it is now, But it says, who do you think you are to think you can go to this city or that and go and make a load of money, go and make a profit? Because you have to do everything unto the Lord. You know, ask for His guidance and so on. And where do you go from here? If it's God's will, then so be it. And I was talking to someone the other day, and it was like, should I keep what I've got here and hide it and just make a load of money just selling it to the small select numbers of people that I can reach out to and go and sell my services to? Or do I think it's bigger than that, and it needs to be held in the palm of my hand so that anybody can look at it and go, wow, I see what we're doing wrong. We can change things. And that's what I've chosen to do. Our website, which is, in fact, what I'll do, I'll put our out. We've got a new live show, a business live show, and I'll put that at the end of this one, so you can see our intro, and then it's got our web address and everything at the end of it. So we'll do it that way around.
Okay.
Instead of trying to mess it. So the whole point is saying, right, well, if we've got this way of working, if we've got this revelation, if we've got this insight to what's been going on and been happening over the past 70 years, what can be done right now to change it? Especially, there's been over a year of lockdown. People have been furloughed, people have been laid off, people have lost their jobs, people have lost their businesses. It's not getting any better. Now people are saying, okay, well, let's open things up a bit again. So what? If people are not going back to work and not getting back into that environment, then what? How do you progress? And then you've got Brexit and this and that and the other. People have must have a different outlook on what they're doing for their businesses. And that has to come through how you communicate who and what you are in business. That's why what we've done, from what people are saying, it's so important, because it's low cost, high exposure, and changes the fabric and profitability of a business.
I do think though that there's probably a fair few business people out there that are Christians or believers that feel that they can't bring their business to God's attention.
Yeah.
That it's, that when they go step over the threshold at church, they become a different person. They leave their business concerns at the door because they don't want to talk about it, because that's another side of their lives. And I think, but God created us to be creative. God created us to do the things that we're good at. And if the things that we're good at are, if it's making money, if it's being creative in business, if it's serving in the community, then why do teachers, for example, have more of a standing than business people? Because both are necessary to our society to actually function in society, because these business people over here provide the jobs for the children that are coming through the education system that are being taught by the teachers. So it's, in a way, I think it's, I don't know, I hesitate to use the word shame, but I do think that there's a lot of business people out there that feel embarrassed about having to bring their business before God, or that maybe there are fewer business people, business owners in church than there are of any other profession, if you like. And so they perceive that maybe there's nobody to pray for them there. And it's such a shame, because the Lord says, He'll bless the work of your hands. And it is the Lord who gives us the power to get wealth, which is in Deuteronomy. And I think if we, first and foremost, yes, we serve God, and we have to be obedient in whether we get a word from God, whether it's in our behaviour about being salt and light wherever we are, and what we do and what we say to other people. So we're first and foremost believers, but then we do have other layers to us. It's what we do in our professional lives, and more or less all of us have a professional life, something that we do professionally. And if that is running a business, then we must bring that to God, because otherwise that's if you think that you're working 8 hours a day and often longer than 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, it's been a bit like that in lockdown. But if you're working all those hours, then doesn't God have the right to be part of that? We don't have the right to shut God off from that part of us. And so, if you're having problems at work because you're employed, you might pray about it. But if you're having problems in your business, do you pray about it? Do you lay it before the Lord? Do you ask him for wisdom? Do you ask him for guidance? Or is that, and this was the whole point of the standard originally, was for business owners. And this is why Nigel set it up. It was for business owners because he recognised that there was a gap there. There was a gap in the market, so to speak. That there was a lot of workplace ministry, a lot about, people going out and witnessing in their workplaces, but there was nothing really there for business owners. And it was interesting to see that whilst it reached other types of people, we were getting phone calls from, Nigel was getting a phone call from a dentist who was having a problem with his business partner. Well, we wouldn't have thought that we wouldn't think the first thing, we'll get a call from a dentist. Other business people that had found the standard because they were looking for something, they were looking for an answer, a business problem, and they couldn't find anything out there, and they didn't feel that they could take it to their pastors in their church because the pastor was too far removed, didn't have the experience, didn't have the understanding, and they wanted to speak to somebody on the level. And I think whilst the standard now transcends business and for life, it didn't start out on its journey like that. It very much started out, if you look at a lot of the content on there, it's very much focused on business, but it actually resonated with people on different levels, and that's why we kind of merged the two sites together. But I think it's so important that we don't forget that God wants to be part of everything that we do. Yeah. Whether it's our business lives, our family lives, our personal lives, our prayer, everything that we do should really be as unto the Lord. Do everything as unto the Lord. And I think that's in Colossians, I think I read it this week, do everything as unto the Lord. So it doesn't matter what you do, and Paul's talking to the slaves that were, in bondage to their owners, whether it was the Romans or whoever. Do everything as unto the Lord, and if we do everything in our businesses as unto the Lord, and as Nigel say, acting with integrity, not doing things that are wrong, things that in your conscience you shouldn't be doing, then I genuinely believe if we're obedient, just generally God opens those doors, because you have to be obedient first and foremost. It says, if you're obedient, it says in Deuteronomy about being obedient, and I know it says about following the law, but it's that obedience to what God's word is, and following his commandments, following what Jesus says and what it says in the Old Testament. And he says, if you do all these things in Deuteronomy 28, I think it is 28 and 30, if you do all these things, then he will bless you. That he will bless you in your coming in and your going out. He will bless your breadbasket and bless you in the city. And so he says this if we're obedient. And I think part of that obedience, that lesson that Nigel learned about surrender, was like, but I've put so much time and effort into this, and basically I think God was saying, yeah, but you're not ready yet, Nigel. You need to learn in the marketplace. You need to learn. There's more for you to learn here, and you need to do this. And
I think one of the things as well is that what does God blessing you look like? What does when God blesses someone, what does it look like? And there's so much of an expectation that people think, well, I want the fairy dust. I want a flash of lightning. I want a bolt of lightning. A bolt of lightning and a suitcase of money. That'll do for me, thanks very much. And it doesn't work that way.
But that's not satisfying in itself, is it?
But the thing with this is that, looking at this completely biblically, we are supposed to be here. Think about that. We're supposed to be here. That's the deal. That's why Earth exists for us. God created it for us to have a relationship with us. We are supposed to be here. Satan isn't. He's been defeated. So we're supposed to be here. So do we think that our existence is supposed to be sitting on a cloud playing a harp? At any time, whether life or death or whatever existence we have. Do we think it's just floating around in white robes? Or is the fact that God is a creative being, someone that has passed on his creativity to us? Lots of people like to create, they create different things. Whether we're immersed, you can't see the other side of this, whether we're immersed in all this technology, or whether you like painting. It's irrelevant. Everything relates to creativity because God's a creator. Makes sense. So when it comes to your business and presenting to God and saying, I've got a problem here. How do I overcome this problem? And the things that it says in the Bible, it says, if you ask him for wisdom, he'll give it to you. There's very few things that practical things. So I do forget them. So you can pray, you can lay hands on the sick, cast out demons,
Preach the gospel.
Make
disciples,
and ask for wisdom. That's it. It's 5 things. But if you think about it, have a read of it. It's only a few thousand pages. Have a read of it. There's 5 things that it says go and do. Okay, you don't kill people. But these things that are the expectation of us and what we can do in return. 5 things. And in business, we need wisdom. We always need wisdom. Wisdom to do the right thing, to not do the wrong thing, to make certain decisions one over another. And if you do make the wrong decision, so it's never the end of the world. Ever. It just depends on your view of the world and how you respond to it and how you fight it, how you fight the enemy, and how you roll your sleeves up and get on with it. The point here is that we've looked at business. We've been completely immersed in business. I have for 35 years. And for the past 15, I've been saying there's got to be a better way of doing this. That the amount of if 500,000 start every year and 500,000 fail every year, it's a lot of grief in the UK if 500,000 businesses going bust. But then even if you look at a set of accounts, if you had a line, if you look at this line here, okay, imagine the red bit here. So you're in the red, happy days, and over here you're in the black.
Okay. Black's good, red's bad.
No, black's good, isn't it? And you're in the black, so you're in the money, and then there you're in the red. There's no cut point here. He doesn't say you're profitable. Sorry, you're running at a loss, or you're profitable. There are degrees of it right the way across. So if it's properly black, well, happy days. As long as it's you've covered all your bills and you've got money to invest, and that's great. But going right the way back to the other side into the red, that's how much grief is out there. That's how much stress is out there. Because if you don't make your business work, you've not got a job, and nor have any of your staff. So there's this constant hum of grief, of pain, of aggro, of tension. Is my business going to survive or not?
Because so many people depend on you, unless you're simply self-employed. But the truth is that, if it's yourself and your wife, or yourself, your wife and your children, or yourself, your wife, your children, and one employee, you only have to introduce, one of those. It rarely is it just that you're doing this for yourself, that you have a business and you have nobody else to support.
Yeah.
And so, this one person here who has a business has probably more than one person and could have many, many people to support. And so the pressure that causes means that how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that pressure? And I think, the only way really to deal with that pressure is to bring it to the Lord and ask him for his wisdom, and the wisdom might be that you have to make some difficult choices.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important that we remember that too, that, when God gives us his wisdom, sometimes that can involve, letting somebody go or separating from a business partner. I mean, in this particular instance where Nigel had the phone call from the dentist, his business partner, he was a Christian, but his business partner wasn't a Christian, and he'd gone into partnership with him. And it does say about not being yoked with unbelievers, and of course business does yoke you to, because you make an agreement between you, whether it's a partnership agreement that you'll share the profits, or if it's a limited company and you'll share the profits, but share the burdens of that business, and you'll put in the business equally. And his business, this guy's business, it was just not going well. He felt that his business partner, this non-believing business partner, was fleecing him, was actually was ripping him off, and was stealing business from him. Because obviously, being a dentist, a lot, what you do, the number of people you treat, you get paid for it, whether it's NHS or private. And so, just because we ask for wisdom doesn't mean that wisdom is going to be, what you should do is you should invest £100,000 in this and it'll be phenomenally successful. God rarely gives us...
No, he doesn't do that.
God doesn't give us those. I mean, he might do, but it's not been our experience that he does that. I mean, apart from put down what you're doing and getting a job, and then you wrote you wrote out your... But that was a specific instruction. You felt that God told you to do that, didn't you? But I think the wisdom can also involve difficult choices, and we do need to remember that, because throughout the Bible, people are, have to make difficult choices. But ultimately, if you're a believer, it does say I think it's in Romans about making all things work together for good to them who are called according to His purpose. If we're called to His purpose, which is to witness and do the things that He tells us to do about preaching the gospel, laying hands on the sick, casting out demons, if we do those things and we follow through with those things, then the other things that are in our lives, He'll make all those things work together. And it might not work together immediately and as you would have thought it would work together, or as you planned it, it might not work out like that. But ultimately, I think if we have faith and we have hope that all those things, good or bad, which I think was the point of the thing that you read this morning, he wasn't a believer, but he was saying we have to take responsibility for our actions, what we do. And sometimes we do things that are foolish, but they bring us to where we are right now. So if we hadn't made foolish decisions or done wrong things in the past as well as doing right things, we wouldn't be where we are now.
Yeah.
So, God has a way of working it all out, whether and sometimes it can be a painful process, but He does have a way of working it all out. And I think that's true for business as well. And if He tells you to do something, if you feel really strongly that God is telling you to do something, then we should do it. We should be obedient.
Yeah. And I think that, when you've got situations, talking about whether you're a one-man band or you've got a larger organisation. A one-man band, if you're working, you're not generating new business. If you're generating new business, you're not working, as in you haven't got that income, and so you peak and trough all the time. And so it's looking at how do we even that out, and what can be done to achieve that. And this is where the wisdom comes in. And you already know what you need to be doing. You know what you've been thinking about. You know what you're planning. You just need to know how to execute that idea. And that's what this is all about. We're saying that our two websites, this one and Sales Exchange, they are the two websites that communicate and express what we feel God has said to us, and for us to process that wisdom into something that is created and creative to show the standard, or to show Sales Exchange. Sales Exchange is a very large website with lots of information and content and podcasts and videos and downloads and so on, that if you were to read it end to end, it will take you a couple of 3 weeks, but you'd be so well placed to know exactly what to do next. And that's the whole point about it, about holding something like that in the palm of your hand and not keeping it just close to you and saying, this is just mine. You know, it's like my precious. Yeah, it's saying, and just hanging on to it. It's a big world. You know you could not service everybody in the world. Could not, cannot, will not happen. And so therefore you be strategic and focused. And we, you know, there is a number of people that watch this and follow us because we connect, we get each other. And that's what this world and this life is about. We're supposed to be here. God has an expectation of us to be the best at what we can be the best at. And if you don't know, ask him. But that's, so when it comes to business, it's not a very long one today, but when it comes to business, rest assured, God's got your back. He's got people like us that put information out on websites that mean you can read and learn without almost oppression, without being cold called, without someone, you know, firing back at you. That you can ask questions of us. What did you do in this situation? Are you going to do the same as us? Maybe, maybe not. Doesn't matter. At least you know that there is a small organisation that's approachable and visible that can answer your questions to do with business and align them with faith. And for us, for our lives, that's the most important thing in the world. And for some reason, Lou Bega, you know, Mambo number 5, is it Mambo number? Lou Bega. So he's a full-on believer. He was baptised a couple of years ago, I think it was.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And he put, you see his stuff on Facebook. Everything is unto God. Very different to what he was back in Germany, however many years ago when he first started off. But now him and his family are all believers. Because they're putting their trust in God and they're just following through. He's still singing. He's singing Kumbaya, he's still singing and he's still doing pop and he's still doing stuff. But he's got a very different attitude and he takes it with him because he's a believer. So it's not about, in certain areas you walk away, you move away because it's wrong. Other areas you know that you can be a fighter and you can be that spiritual warrior in that environment, and that goes for work as well. God didn't create money. Babylon did. God knows that we have to use money to buy food and to live. We don't go out and shoot deer anymore, or cattle, whatever. You know what I mean? It's like Robin Hood, isn't it?
It's like what?
Robin Hood. Oh, we've all seen Robin Hood, you know.
It's just so we don't have to fish for our food, though.
Well, we don't fish. I would become better. I would have become a better fisherman if we had to.
Is that right?
It's just at the moment I'm not so good. But you get the picture, you know. We're supposed to be here. We have to use money to buy and sell. That's how it is. And therefore, God knows that we need to use money, to use it. Money's not to use us, we're to use it. And so there are lots of factors within business. If you looked at business top down and looked at all how they all join together, it's not a very pretty picture. It's not a very logical picture. For the serious money people, yeah, it's fine because we keep making money hand over fist. For people like you and I, SMEs, looking to support our families and do what we want to do, it's not a very good picture because there's conflicting information that makes our lives very, very difficult. Now, who would design something like that? So, we look at this, we say, right, we have the wisdom to identify how to work and live better. Happy days. That's what it's got to be about. I think it's...
Yeah, you're going to play our intro.
As
an outro, we're going to play our intro to our new business show.
So
Maybe we'll come back after that, just to say goodbye.
All right, let me just bear with me. Glasses on.
Talk amongst yourselves.
And it should come up now. There you go. So that's the new live show. I'd like to go live this coming week, but I'm just waiting for a link to be sent through to me from LinkedIn, so we can go live on LinkedIn. We've got about 4,000 people that I'm connected to and follow me and so on. So there's about 4,000 over there. So it's really important that we keep doing this and we keep being able to connect with people and say, there's a better way. You can go and do it yourself. You get all the information you need from our website, go and do it yourself, or you can use us and we'll fast track it and make it happen quicker. That's all there is to it. But anyway, I've got nothing. I could talk for England on that, but I won't.
I think the most important thing, though, is to know that, you know, God is there all the time.
Yeah.
God is with us all the time, whatever we're doing, whatever struggles we're going through, whatever is going on in our lives, that He is there all the time, and He listens and He hears what we say, and He is more than aware of the stress that comes with business, and therefore we shouldn't be afraid to take it to Him, and we shouldn't be afraid that, you know, He might say, well, put this down, do something different, and even because it might be that what you're doing is not quite the right thing and God points you in a new direction, but if you hold on too tightly to it, you know, it defines you, and then it's much more difficult to put something down. So I think, you know, but I think if you need prayer, by all means reach out to us either, you know, send a message via the Standard or on Facebook or whatever, and we're here and we can offer advice, business advice, help in terms of your journey, your spiritual journey, and we're very happy to talk to you. So we just pray that for, you know, everybody out there.
We've even got there's even an 0800 number. But at the end of the day, we just merge the two together. You know, This is life. For Business for Life, this is what it's about. If you need to have a chat, contact us. We're here. But have a blessed week.
Yep.
And
enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, this lockdown seems to be opening up a bit, so maybe things will be a bit brighter over the next few weeks. Anyway, until the next one.
God
bye
bless.
for now.
Bye bye.